What's up, y'all? It's MMA Analyst. I'm here to do a video. I guess that probably a lot of people would be interested in. Maybe possibility. Um, Talk about Brock Lesnar, y'all. Brock Lesnar. No nickname. No nickname needed. I don't think. I think maybe the Crusher, the Punisher, Brock. The Beast Lesnar, but there's already so many beasts out there. The Monster is already Kevin Randleman. But anyways, that's what the video is about. It's about Brock Lesnar. What have we seen so far? Where do we go from here? What's next? How good is he really? Now, everything I'm about to say, it's all on top of my head. I don't really have it on paper or anything. I'm going to try and make sure I do cover everything that I've thought about recently. So I'm not really going to even worry about his antics. That doesn't have anything to do with the fight. His antics are his antics. He does what he does. He just, can't mess with Dana's money. Don't talk about the sponsors. Dana doesn't care what you do, Brock. Just don't mess with the sponsors, Brock. Don't do that. But now that we've got that out of the way, let's get right down to it. Brock Lesnar, he's had only a couple fights. He fought in the K1 tournament, in the K1 organization. Not even going to bring that up. He basically went out there. He was way bigger than dude, and just crushed him. Whatever. There we go. Out of the way. Now let's get right down to the meat and potatoes. He came into the UFC, fought Frank Mir in the first fight. Very overzealous, but he was still very big. He looked like he might have been bigger at that time. He was still coming from his earlier days. I don't know what that means, but earlier days, you know what I mean? And he was very big, very, very ready to go. The kind of guy just runs across the cage, takes Frank Mir down. Now, just for the record, I did pick Mir to win that fight. I picked Brock Lesnar to crush Heath Herring, and I also picked Brock Lesnar to beat Randy Couture. So this is not a video coming from the standpoint of a Brock Lesnar hater. I'm definitely a Brock Lesnar recognizer and realizer of skills. I realize what he is, what he can be, and what he's doing right now. But we're going to talk about a more open-minded, not exactly from the standpoint of, he's the greatest thing of all time, nobody can beat him, he's unstoppable, what are we going to do? Because we just don't know these things yet. And we will find out in the future. And it might only take 2-3 fights to realize, Brock Lesnar really is unstoppable. But we're going to have to see some things first. So, anyways, against Frank Mir, he was very green. It was only a second fight. He came out, took him down, got in a very dominant position, did his little teeny hammer fist, big fist, small hammer, and, beat Frank up a bit. Hit him in the back of the head. Mazzagatti stood the fight up. Actually, the second time, same situation. Actually, he hit him with a punch, took him down. That time, though, he was in even a better situation. Frank Mir was still trying to do his thing, going for submissions from wherever. Tried an armbar, couldn't get that. And then Brock Lesnar stood over him, very green, very early. And, got knee barred, just amateur move. So what happens next? He goes back to the drawing board. He fights Heath Herring in a fight in which, I said Heath Herring is going to get smashed. He doesn't have jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's horrible. He's not like he's a stand-up guy. He really brings nothing to the table to beat Brock Lesnar. That's what happened. Although we did learn that Brock Lesnar had some issues finishing people at that time in his career. Truly, he should have been able to finish off Heath Herring and many other heavyweights at that time. It would have been able to finish Heath Herring in the situations that Brock had him in, but still learning, still developing. Then he comes against Randy Couture. At the time, 45 years old. Also a guy said, not the best matchup for Randy Couture, if not probably the second worst in the world. The worst being Fedor and him being the second worst because he's a younger, stronger, bigger, faster version of Randy Couture and a better wrestler. So you put all those things in together, you've got, basically Randy Couture and then Randy Couture like 4.0 was going to happen is Randy Couture is going to get beat. That's what happened. But we did see a little bit of what I want to talk about. We said, okay, now, Brock Lesnar, what happens when he can't get immediate takedowns? I'll talk about this with the Frank Mir fight. What happens if he has to, fight for takedowns a little bit? What happens if things aren't given to him, right? And we saw Brock Lesnar, he was a little bit tired after the first round. He wasn't able to just manhandle Randy Couture, 45-year-old, very talented, skilled, and in shape one, but nonetheless, a 45-year-old man who weighed 40, 50, 60 pounds less. Randy Couture was probably coming in around 230 max. Brock Lesnar at the time of the fight was around 285. So you got a guy 13 years younger, 60 pounds heavier, and you're supposed to be that brute force, that crazy whatever, and you're having issues with Randy. Props to Randy, but it does raise some questions. What happens if he fought a younger Randy? What happens if he fought a bigger Randy? What happens if he fought another guy similar to Brock Lesnar's skill set? And we weren't able to see that in his next fight because that was against Frank Mir. And in this fight, you really saw a few things that I don't think anybody's brought up yet. You saw Frank Mir disrespect the skill set of Brock Lesnar. And a lot of people are saying, whoa, where's that? In the fight. I'm not talking about pre-fight. In the fight. In the actual fight. Frank Mir did some you ain't-ish type stuff. And by that I mean, he went out and he basically jumped for a leg lock. Now, do you think he would do that against Nogueira? Do you think he would do that against Carwin or Velasquez or really any other, even Czech Congo? Would he start punching and trying to flip upside down and go for a leg lock? Absolutely not. So this leads me to believe that, and the combination of Brock Lesnar going for takedowns and Frank Mir jumping the half guard, it leads me to believe that Frank Mir overestimated his own ability in this fight and underestimated Lesnar's ability in the fight. Even if he trained hard for a Brock Lesnar who knew a whole bunch, and even if he was in the best shape of his life, which he was, and even if he might have had a game plan or whatnot, he still did not think that Brock Lesnar could actually beat him. He just didn't think it. And that goes to show why he would let Brock Lesnar. Now, I'm not saying he could have stopped Brock Lesnar from taking him down, but he definitely let him take him down. Brock Lesnar, between standing up and hitting the ground, did not expend any extra energy. He said, I'm going to take him down. Oh, he's going to jump half guard. No problem. Take him down. And that's just a situation. Mir thought off his back he could do his thing. Well, the difference between the first fight and the second fight is Brock Lesnar has calmed the F down. And it's not just back-to-back fights. There's 2 fights in the middle. 2 fights and lots of training time. In the Heath Herring fight, he didn't go crazy. He just controlled the situation. And the Randy fight, he got to show us that 88-inch reach or something crazy. He got a long-ass reach. And also, a little bit more of an actual wrestling, takedown defense, takedown ability, whatnot. Ability to scramble while somebody's making him scramble. Brock against Frank Mir, though, Frank Mir said, take me down, I'm going to sub you off my back. And the difference was Brock Lesnar said it's not going to be the same. I'm going to cross-face you. I'm going to put you right here in that crevice. And I'm going to beat the F out of your face. And you're not going to be able to move because I weigh 285 pounds. And I know how to use what I got. And what I got is size, speed, and strength. And he used all of them on the ground. Swole up his whole face. Frank Mir got to the second round. Did some nice stuff. Got him in a clinch. And then, now, the knee was nice, but when Lesnar had a single leg, Frank Mir jumped for a knee. Now, that's giving up a takedown. And the difference with this one is it was a much worse situation. He was up against the cage. He had already got beat up in the first round. Lesnar was still not tired. Mir had gone through 4 minutes of, his head getting used like a basketball. And with all of this happening, he still said, I'm going to throw this knee. Did he really think that with Brock Lesnar's ability in wrestling and size, that he could up against the cage, throw a knee, and actually end up back on his feet? Absolutely. If he did, again, it just goes to show Frank Mir thought that Lesnar wasn't the fighter that he is and really didn't respect the guy's actual skill. He respected his potential skill, but really didn't come into this fight to fight the actual skill. He came in to fight what he believed would be a much easier opponent in Brock Lesnar again. I can't blame him. He beat him the first time in 55 seconds. Brock Lesnar made some amateur-ass mistakes. And since then, he's never shown anything to make anybody believe that his ground game would be that much better, especially with Heath Herring. But it is what it is. So, Mir gets his arm trapped. It's another thing that he would just not let people do is, he would never turn on his side and let somebody trap his arm or even give that opportunity. But he gave all these things up to Brock Lesnar. He literally, and I'm not saying Brock didn't take it and that he couldn't even taken it on his own. But Brock was given a lot of stuff. And again, please do not think that this is me disrespecting Brock's skill set. I'm just saying Frank did not make Brock work for it. And that's where I'm getting to. So now, Brock Lesnar has finished Frank Mir in devastating and a little boring fashion, but still devastating. Finished Randy Couture in unexpected fashion. Just beating Randy was expected. And finished Heath Herring, or beat Heath Herring, which was also expected. Where do we go from here? Well, they got Brock Lesnar's put up as like number 4 heavyweight in the world. It goes maybe 3 heavyweight. Fedor, Barnett, Lesnar. So the 3 heavyweight in the world. I can't really argue with that based on what I'm seeing and based on the activity of the heavyweight division, based on who's fighting who in the heavyweight division. It is what it is. But what happens? Is Brock untouchable in the UFC? If Fedor doesn't come to the UFC, is there anybody that can beat him? Is there anybody that, the betting lines will have Brock Lesnar as the underdog? Because that's really what it comes down to. Everybody can say this guy's better than this guy and this guy's better than this guy, but it's not often when Vegas has it wrong. When Vegas has the guy who should be losing as the betting favorite, right? So if Brock Lesnar were to fight anybody in the heavyweight division right now, Brock Lesnar would be the favorite against all of them. Potentially the only people that he wouldn't be the favorite against would be Barnett, who's not in the UFC, and I bet you they'd have that at even, like minus 115, which basically means you got to bet $115 to win $100. Or something like that. But the point is, that would be even, and the only person in the whole world right now that Brock Lesnar would be the underdog against would be against Fedor Emelianenko. But what about the guys in the UFC, people that he can actually face? So we got a few guys. We got Shane Carwin. This is obviously the guy who I believe will fight first against Brock Lesnar. Shane Carwin's going to be fighting Cain Velasquez. So what is Shane Carwin? He's still 30 pounds lighter than Brock Lesnar, but he's a very strong guy with very strong wrestling and dirty-ass ground and pound. So, what'll happen in that fight, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that Brock Lesnar is not going to be given takedowns. He's going to expend a lot of energy. Now, if we get to the point after this fight where we see Brock Lesnar can just GSP people, which he can just decide to take people down, which it didn't happen in the Randy fight, but if he can just decide to take people down, there's going to be some issues people have to realize. Like, I can't stop this man's takedowns. And I did say a while ago that you just can't stop his takedowns, but I'm backtracking a little. Even though I haven't really been proven wrong in that case, I am backtracking a little bit. He can be taken down. Just, he has to fight people that are going to be attempting it. He's going to be throwing punches. I know his sprawl's got to be serious, Let me adjust this mic, get up close. His sprawl's going to be serious. If he throws a punch and you're going for a sloppy shot, you're going to end up with your face smashed against the ground and Brock Lesnar all over you, spinning around. He ain't going to take it back, but he'll sure as hell, get on one knee beside you and punch you in your face. So we know that. But Shane Carwin is somebody that will test Brock Lesnar. Now, if Shane Carwin gets hit in that chin by that Brock Lesnar punch, because I do believe that these guys are going to start on the feet, and maybe even trade for a little bit. That's the biggest issue right off the bat for Shane Carwin. Because if Brock Lesnar gets Shane Carwin in the position that Gonzaga had him in, Brock Lesnar will finish that fight. There's no getting up for Shane. You know what I mean? He'll be sleeping. Shane will be feeling the pain. You know what I mean? And his memory, he will not be able to retain. I don't know. But the point is, he's got to make sure he doesn't get rocked on the feet. Now, you take away the part about rocked on the feet, well, then we're going to start to see, really, what is Brock Lesnar made of. If he is able to stuff takedowns, or even crazier, just take Shane Carwin down at will, get on top of him and do what he did to Frank Mir, or even any version of that, or even if he's able to just control him for 5 rounds. Wow. This dude is really going to be tested by Shane Carwin. What about Cain Velasquez? Similar situation, but I do believe that Shane is going to beat Cain Velasquez. Or Velasquez. Anyways, but a similar thing. You know, Velasquez isn't just going to give takedowns away. He's not going to jump to half guard. He's not going to, you know, wrestlers don't like to be put on their back. Jiu-jitsu guys, they don't mind it. And that's why I've kind of changed my standpoint about who can beat Brock Lesnar now. I don't know if these jiu-jitsu guys who are just too comfortable for their own good are going to be the ones to take out Brock Lesnar. You know, somebody like Gabriel Gonzaga, he's big, oh yeah, but he gives up too easily. And that's not disrespect intended, but when he gets put up against situations that are tough, he gives up. He might not quit, but he sure as hell doesn't fight back the way you need to show everybody that's watching, I haven't given up. I haven't thrown in the towel in my mind. Mentally, he just doesn't seem like he's strong enough to be put on his back and deal with those big-ass hands and teeny hammer fists. So, you know, Gonzaga, he's not there. You know, Fabricio Verdum's not even in the UFC anymore, but if he was, I would see something similar to the Mir fight, except for he's got some pretty good kicks that he can incorporate. So maybe, you know, but I don't think he'd be trying to kick Lesnar, so he can just take you down. So we've got Carwin, we've got Shane, Carwin and Cain Velasquez. Shane and Cain. Other than that, who do we have in the UFC? We've got Congo. That's a joke, you know. Congo definitely would. Maybe if he could catch Brock with that punch that he caught Cain Velasquez with, maybe he can knock him out right off the bat, but let's not pretend that Brock is going to stand up and trade at all with Congo. And if he does have a chin, at least as good as Cain's, then he can just get punched and take him down and win the fight. So, you know, that ain't it. The UFC heavyweight division, we got to really take a look at this division. It's filled with question marks. How good is Cain Velasquez? How good is Shane Carwin? These guys are guys that have fought up until their last fight, all pretty much not too good a competition. And, you know, they both beat their toughest opponents. And the question is, how good are they? Now, there's another question. How good really is he? We're talking about Dos Santos. How good is he? Big, strong guy. You know, great stand-up. Nice boxing hands. Got good Muay Thai. Knocked the F out of Fabricio Verdum. And it's not like he's completely clueless on the ground. He's got knowledge of the ground game as well. So that's a guy that's definitely not going to give up takedowns easily. He won't be pulling half guard. He won't be pulling guard. If Brock goes in there for a double leg, he ain't just going to lay back and say, let me try and throw you off my back. He's also very big, young, strong guy. So, but that's the thing. Like, we are filled. You know, we've got Nogueira. We know all about Nogueira. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe if Nogueira could find a way to get his way back to a title shot, you know, we could maybe see what's going on there. But, like, you know, I don't know what's left with Nogueira. Like, we hear he was in the hospital with, like, 7 days prior to the Mir fight because of staph infection. If that's true, well, then that's great because he looked horrible in that fight. But even before that, he was getting beat by Tim Sylvia. We know that Nogueira gets beat by everybody until he beats him, except for Fedor, but I'm just saying. He got knocked the F down real bad by Keith Haring. So he's just really been going through some tough times. And I'm not exactly sure if he's still all okay upstairs. I hope he is. But he's gone through too many wars for me to think that he's just going to walk in there and do to Lesnar what he was able to do to, like, Bob Sapp. Also, Lesnar's way better than Bob Sapp. So we know about him. Randy Couture, we know about him. Randy's not going to ever beat Brock, I don't believe. Maybe if he can go out there and avoid getting knocked out and maybe win the rounds off of, wrestling, but I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think he had his chance. Brock is only getting better, and Couture is only getting older. Crow Cop is back, and I do believe that his situation is this. Like, what happened the first time Crow Cop came to the UFC? They're like, look, dude, all you got to do is beat one bum. No disrespect, but, you got to beat a bum and a big Brazilian. You beat those guys, we give you a title shot. And then now he said, I can't come to the UFC because they want to give me, 3 fights over 14 months without a title shot promised if I win those 2 fights. Then he went back and said, I'm going to go fight in Dream. But then they went back to him and gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. Well, that sounds like, to me, like beat, one bum, Mustafa El Turk. First time it was Eddie Sanchez. And then beat a big Brazilian. First time it was Gonzaga. This time it's Dos Santos. I believe that if he beats Dos Santos, he will get a crack at the title of whoever wins between Lesnar and Kane and Shane. So Shane Carwin's going to fight Cain Velasquez. Whoever gets that, he's going to get a title shot against Brock Lesnar. Mirko Crow Cop is going to fight Dos Santos. Whoever wins that is going to get a title shot at whoever wins between those 3 I just discussed. Meanwhile, Randy Couture is fighting Nogueira. I believe that Randy Couture will fight Frank Mir if he loses. Nogueira will fight Frank Mir if he loses. If Randy Couture wins, I don't know who he'll fight. Maybe he'll fight the loser of... he'll definitely fight Crow Cop. If Crow Cop loses to Dos Santos, he will definitely lose. He will definitely fight that fight. Crow Cop versus Randy Couture. So that's what I think is going on right now. Meanwhile, we've got Josh Barnett, the number 2 heavyweight in the world, fighting Fedor Emelianenko, the number 1 heavyweight in the world. Whoever wins there, that's the end of their 3-fight contract. They're going to have to sign on again. Fedor just released a video today with MMA Live with Boss Rutan, and it was a brand new video. They said, Fedor, do you think that you're going to fight in the UFC? And I know Fertitta was talking good stuff about it. Dana was talking good stuff about it. Fedor was like, look, I just don't believe it's going to happen. I do not think I'll be fighting in the UFC. Of course, they can come at him with a really good offer. It could change things. They could loosen up their whatever's on it. But I don't know. I don't think Fedor is coming to the UFC. I would like to see it. I would like to see him come to the UFC. First of all, he's going to have to beat Josh Barnett. I do think it'll happen, but that's what he needs to worry about right now. After that, there's really... Heck, if he doesn't go to the UFC, then I would like to see him on free TV. You know what I mean? Whatever Strikeforce is doing, if they got that CBS deal, I would love to see that. Brock Lesnar versus Fedor Emelianenko. I don't even really think I need to get into this, but I do think I need to get into this. Meaning, a lot of people saying a whole lot of foolishness. Meanwhile, I don't even think it needs to be discussed, but we will talk about it. Fedor Emelianenko has 1 loss since the year 2000. He has beaten multiple champions from multiple organizations. A lot of people talk about Tim Sylvia and Andrei Arlovsky being bums when they go to other places. Well, let's really think about this. They were the champions in the UFC. And Andrei Arlovsky left the UFC on a 3-fight winning streak and fought Fedor in his 4th fight of a 3-fight winning streak. So when he fought Fedor, he was far from being washed up. Far from it. And Fedor beat him. Tim Sylvia, he got knocked up by Bray Mercer. But this just goes to show you how weak the UFC heavyweight division has been over the years. That their champions go other places and lose. Not that Fedor beats a guy that also gets beat by a 48-year-old Bray Mercer, but rather the UFC heavyweight champions go other places and lose. It's not Fedor's fault that the UFC heavyweight champions have issues outside of the UFC. Most of the UFC heavyweight champions are either in the UFC, outside of the UFC losing, or retired. So that's just something along on its own that you can take a look at. Brock Lesnar is very big. He's very fast. Fedor Emelianenko is just as fast or faster. Definitely a way better striker. Definitely better ground game. It's going to be hard as hell to take Fedor Emelianenko down. Taking Fedor down is not easy, no matter how big you are. He's not going to give it to you, and he might just sambo your ass on your back and completely use his hips to utilize whatever would not. Now, everybody wants to look to the one time where Fedor was or could have been taken down against Matt Lindland, a 185-pound wrestler. Hey, whatever. 9 years and you almost get taken down by Lindland, sure. That's fine. But other than that, he's been, handling people. The fight would start on the feet. This is if the fight never happens, you just watch this video right now, and you can always visualize it in your mind. In the one corner, we've got Brock Lesnar. In the other corner, we've got Fedor Emelianenko. All right? Then they say, let's get it on. Then Fedor walks across the cage. There's two options, actually. If Brock Lesnar walks across the cage, he will walk into a 92-punch hook combo from Fedor Emelianenko. Something that he's never had to deal with people trying to hit him with combinations. Except for the one time against Frank Mir when he got hit with the elbow, hit with a knee, hit with another knee, but then landed in half guard. So Fedor does, the same one he did on Gary Goodridge, same one he did on Tim Sylvia, same one he did on, basically anybody who didn't respect their stand-up striking. Does that, he covers up, then he gets taken down, then he gets tapped. That's option one. Option two is Fedor says, F that, I'm not trying to get Zulu'd. So, that's a Fedor. Anyways, Lesnar says that, and Lesnar runs across the cage and tries to take Fedor down. In which, in that case, Fedor will either end up in guard, because he'll never get to half, or he'll Sambo Judo his way around that, and then when the thing gets up, fight number one happens. Basically, whenever Lesnar stops being a reckless lunatic, that's when Fedor says 95-punch combo to your face and to your body. I'm not going to talk about this fight. Fedor beats Lesnar, alright? If Lesnar fights Shane Carwin, who has one notable win, Cain Velasquez, who has one notable win, Dos Santos, who has one notable win, if he fights these guys and beats them all with, great amount of skill, and then meanwhile Fedor is winning his thing, well then we'll have to, revisit this in the future. But as of right now, Brock Lesnar is 4-1 with wins over one-dimensional fighters. Alright. And by one-dimensional, I mean they are very, very strong at one part of the game. Randy Couture is definitely a multi-dimensional fighter. But nobody would ever say that Randy's a great striker. Nobody would ever say that Randy has amazing jiu-jitsu. And nobody would ever say, Randy Couture. Basically, he's got up against the cage dirty boxing and wrestling. Heath Herring, he might be zero-dimensional. He might have 0 dimensions to his game. And Mir is very good in jiu-jitsu, but his striking is not like he's a striker. So, we haven't seen him really up against somebody who can strike and go to the ground. Somebody who can stuff takedowns and knock you out. Somebody who can submit you or hit you with a knee, like Alistair Overeem. If Alistair Overeem hits dude with a knee, it ain't the same knee. That's not the same knee. Alistair Overeem's knee is a different knee, and it's followed up by another knee. And I'm not talking about that little 205-pound gassing at the end of the first skinny-ass Overeem. I'm talking about this Hercules-looking, big-ass muscle, 6'4", 255-pound wrecking machine Overeem. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about that Overeem. So, Brock Lesnar, right now, I'm not going to disagree with the ratings, with the rankings. I probably would have to put him at number 3. We've seen what he can do against guys who use only the jiu-jitsu. We've seen what he can do against people who have no game plan, Keith Haring. And we've seen what he can do against an older, aging, smaller wrestler. But what can he do up against, young wrestlers with pretty good skill coming up in the game in good camps, or really good strikers who have good ground game? Possibly he can beat them all, but we don't know that yet, and I'm not going to say it yet. It is too early to see. But the beautiful thing about MMA is that it's happening right before our very eyes. We're not going to have to wait long. These fights are going to happen. We're going to see what goes down. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be crazy. I'm going to love every moment of it, even the ones that I hate, because MMA is important, y'all. Peace.